Level 1, the private. You are 19 years old. You enlisted with an Option 40 contract. That is the only way into the 75th Ranger Regiment. You have to request it before you join, not after basic. Before, which means you made this decision when you were still a civilian, which means you chose one of the most demanding infantry assignments in the U.S. Army without having experienced a single day of military service. Basic training is 8 weeks. At the end of the basic training, you go to Infantry OSIT, 1 station unit training, another 7 weeks. At the end of OSIT, you go to airborne school, 3 weeks of learning to exit a moving aircraft and land without dying. By the time you arrive at the Ranger Assessment and Selection Program, RASP, you have been in the Army for 5 months, and you have not yet earned the right to be called a Ranger. RASPs is 8 weeks. The first 2 weeks are designed to remove people who should not be there. Not bad soldiers, not weak soldiers. Soldiers who should be somewhere else. You do 8-mile foot marches in under 2 hours. You do land navigation alone, at night, through Georgia swamps with a compass and a map and no GPS. You swim in your uniform. You do the Ranger Physical Fitness Test. 49 push-ups, 59 sit-ups, a 5-mile run in under 40 minutes, at 4 a.m. before anything else happens. Men leave every day. Some fail the tests. Some decide this isn't what they signed up for, which is its own kind of information about a person. Nobody gives you grief about it. You either want to be here or you don't. You want to be here. You graduate from RASP. You receive the tan beret. The ceremony is at Fort Moore, Georgia, in a formation of people who also got here the hard way. And something in that room is specific. A weight of shared experience that has name but that you will feel every time you are in a room like this for the rest of your career. Level 2, the Ranger, 75th Ranger Regiment, 1st Ranger Battalion, A Company. You are an infantryman in the most experienced light infantry unit in the United States Army. The 75th Ranger Regiment maintains a continuous deployment rotation. 1 battalion is always in a ready status, on 6 to 9 hour standby to deploy anywhere in the world. This is not a theoretical posture. It is maintained every single day. You begin learning the Ranger Standard. The Ranger Standard is not a document. It is a culture embedded through performance. You are not allowed to be average at anything. You are required to be excellent at the basics. Marksmanship, small unit tactics, medical care under fire, communications, and you are evaluated on that excellence constantly. Not in formal assessments alone. In training, in preparation, in the way you handle your equipment. Your first deployment is to a country in the Middle East, whose name you are not authorized to specify. Your mission, direct action raids, compound clearing. The 75th does not advise. It does not train foreign forces. It closes with the enemy and destroys or captures it. This is the mandate. It is specific, and it is physical, and it is done at night. You make an entry into 17 structures over the course of the deployment. In 11 of them, you find exactly what the intelligence said would be there. In 4 of them, you find nothing. In 2 of them, the intelligence was wrong in the specific way that requires a fast decision in a dark room. You come home from the deployment in the same formation you left in. That is the thing you notice most. The same people, the same faces. You lose nobody on this deployment. You do not assume this will always be true. Level 3, the Specialist, Year 3. You are a Specialist EFE-4. You have attended Ranger School. This is different from RASP. Ranger School is the Army's premier leadership course, open to soldiers from across the service, not just the regiment. 61 days in 3 phases. The mountains of Georgia, the mountains of Tennessee, and the swamps of Florida. You carry 60 pounds through all of it. You sleep 4 hours per night, averaged across the course. You eat fewer than 0 calories per day, when the course is supposed to be providing 3,000. The caloric deficit is not an accident. It is the mechanism. Deprivation is the test environment for leadership. Because leadership under comfortable conditions is not leadership. It is preference. You graduate with the Ranger tab, a small curved patch worn on the left shoulder above the unit patch. it does not change your pay grade. It changes how the people around you read you. Within the regiment, the tab is expected. Outside the regiment, it carries a different weight when you encounter soldiers from other units. In transit, in training, at the rare joint operation, the tab is a signal they can read. It doesn't produce the signal for that reason. It produces it because the course is genuinely difficult and the people who finish it have genuinely done something. You are now one of the more experienced junior soldiers in your company. You are 22 years old. You have been on 2 deployments. You know things about doing this job in actual conditions that cannot be taught in training, only accumulated. A new private arrives in the company, fresh from RASP. He is 19. He is technically excellent. He asks you on his first day what the difference is between training and the actual job. You tell him, in training, the worst thing that happens is you fail the exercise. He nods. He writes it down. You let him figure out the rest. Level 4, the squad leader. Staff Sergeant. E6. Year 7. You lead a squad of 9 Rangers. You are the most immediate tactical leader in the unit, the person between the company command structure and the men doing the physical job. What happens on the ground in a direct action raid is shaped by decisions you make in the 2 minutes before entry, in the 2 seconds of the stack, and in the immediate aftermath when the environment is still being assessed. You plan missions. You brief your squad. You rehearse the plan on a mock-up of the objective. Sometimes a real replica built on a training area, sometimes a sketch in the dirt, sometimes just the verbal walkthrough with everyone standing in the right positions and moving through the sequence without a building around them. You do this until the plan is in everyone's body, not just everyone's head. A mission in Eastern Europe. Your battalion is attached to a NATO task force on a training rotation that is not entirely a training rotation. Intelligence has produced a target, a specific person, a specific location, a specific window. The mission goes up the chain and comes back approved at 2200 hours. You brief your squad at 2230. The mock-up rehearsal runs until midnight. You load at 010. The helicopters are loud in the way you stopped consciously hearing 3 years ago. You are thinking about the 3rd room on the 2nd floor, which, the intelligence says, is the one with the most movement and which you have planned for accordingly. The entry takes 4 minutes. The target is where the intelligence said he would be. The compound is cleared. Your squad comes out complete. Wheels up at 0342. You debrief your squad on the flight back. 2 things that worked better than planned. 1 thing you will change for next time. Level 5. The Platoon Sergeant. Sergeant First Class. E7. Year 11. You are the Platoon Sergeant. You manage 4 squads and their 4 squad leaders. You are responsible not only for the performance of the platoon, but for the development of the leaders within it. This is the first level at which you are more manager than operator. And the transition is harder than any physical test in your career. You know how to clear a room. You know how to plan a direct action mission. You know how to perform under conditions that would end most people. You do not yet know how to make 12 junior NCOs better at their job simultaneously while also maintaining the platoon's operational readiness and your own fitness and the administrative requirements that exist at every level of the Army and that nobody told you about when you signed the contract. You figure it out. This is not inspiring. It is the process by which every Sergeant First Class in the history of this organization figured it out. Slowly, by doing it, and by asking the senior people around them the right questions. A Ranger goes down in a vehicle rollover during a training exercise. Broken femur, concussion, and possible spinal injury. You are first on scene. You assess. You call for medevac. You manage the scene for 11 minutes while the helicopter comes. He survives. Full recovery in 7 months. He comes back to the regiment. You see him in the hallway at Fort Moore 3 months after he returns. He is in his kit, headed to the range. He nods at you. You nod back. This is how these things are acknowledged in this specific community. completely and without words. Level 6, the company first sergeant. First sergeant, E8, year 15. You are the first sergeant of a Ranger company, 200 soldiers. The senior enlisted advisor to the company commander. You are the institutional knowledge, the disciplinary standard, the personnel officer, the counselor, the enforcer, and occasionally, the person who sits with a ranger at 2 a.m. when the job has accumulated in ways that accumulate. The 75th Ranger Regiment is a high deployment unit. The people in it have done the job you do more times than most military personnel will in a career twice as long. The accumulation of that is not always visible. Sometimes it is visible at 2 a.m. in a barracks room when a soldier who has been on 6 deployments and lost 2 teammates and rotated through 3 different time zones in the last 18 months comes to you not with a specific problem but with a general weight. You do not have a clinical answer for this. You have presence. You stay. You listen. You make sure the person leaves the room with a next step that is smaller than the weight they came in carrying. You have done this 11 times in 3 years. Each time is the same and each time is different. The company commander, a young captain on his first command, asks you how you know when to escalate and when to handle it at the first sergeant level. You tell him, when I'm confident I can carry the weight alongside them, I carry it. When I'm not, I refer. The key is being honest about which one it is. He writes this down. You remember when someone said something similar to you. The source is 18 years back, which makes it older than some of the soldiers in the company. Level 7, the Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major of the 75th Ranger Regiment, the most senior enlisted ranger in the organization. 8 battalions worth of senior NCOs report upward through a chain that ultimately reaches you. You are the institutional memory of the regiment, not in a documentary sense, in an operational one. You have been doing this for 22 years. You have been on deployments that are classified and deployments that are not, and deployments that are somewhere in between, in countries where the U.S. military's presence was officially non-operational, and actually very operational. You have made decisions under conditions that would not survive analysis, and that produced outcomes that were the best available given the options. You testify before a congressional subcommittee on Special Operations Forces employment. The questions are about the pace of operations, the number of deployments per year, the dwell time between them, and the physical and psychological load on the force. You answered accurately. You do not minimize. You do not exaggerate. After the hearing, a senator from a southern state who sits on the Armed Services Committee shakes your hand. He says the country owes you a debt. You say thank you. You do not say what you are thinking, which is that debt without institutional investment in the people who carry it is not a debt, it is a sentiment. You drive back to Fort Moore. The base looks the same as it did when you were 19. The buildings are slightly different. The formation grounds are in the same place. A group of RASP candidates is doing a foot march on the far side of the post in the Georgia heat. You watch them for a moment from your vehicle. You remember exactly what that march felt like. The weight, the pace, not knowing how much further. You remember deciding it did not matter how much further. Level 8, the Regimental Commander, Colonel, Commander of the 75th Ranger Regiment. The entire regiment, 3 battalions, approximately 3,500 soldiers, the most capable direct action light infantry force the United States maintains. You plan and execute operations in multiple theaters simultaneously. You coordinate with JSOC, with CIA, with partner nation forces, with the interagency community that surrounds and shapes every special operations mission in a way that is invisible to the public and central to how the work actually gets done. A mission goes wrong. An intelligence failure leads to a compromised insertion and a firefight in a location that should have been clear. 2 Rangers are wounded, 1 seriously. The mission is aborted. The regiment comes home. You brief the theater commander. You brief JSOC. You brief the JAG team that reviews every use of force incident involving your unit. You are transparent in all 3 briefings. You do not shade the account. You state clearly what the intelligence said, what the operation was planned for, what happened, and what needs to change. The seriously wounded Ranger recovers. He returns to duty within a year. The change that needs to happen in the intelligence collection process has been made. You write a letter to the Ranger's family. You write it by hand. It takes 2 hours. Level 9, the quiet one. You retire after 28 years. The ceremony is in the morning at Fort Moore. The flag is folded the correct way by the soldiers who have trained for that specific task. The handshake from the Army Chief of Staff. The words from the Regimental Commander about service and sacrifice, and the rare kind of career that means something. You receive the flag. You hold it. Afterward, outside the building, a Ranger private approaches you. He is fresh from RASP, 20 years old. He asks, with the directness of a person who has earned the right to ask direct questions, what you wish someone had told you at the beginning. You think about it. Then you say, nobody tells you that the mission is always the thing. On the worst days and the best days, when you are not sure you can continue, and when you are sure of nothing at all, the mission is still there, and it still matters. Hold on to that. He nods. He shakes your hand with both of his. You drive north out of Georgia. The road is straight and long and familiar. Behind you, a formation is assembling for the early morning physical training. Sing. You can see it in the rearview mirror for about 30 seconds before the road curves. Then it is gone, and you are looking at the road ahead. Somewhere at Fort Moore, a 19-year-old with an Option 40 contract is in the first week of RASP. He does not know yet what this life costs. He knows what he came for. That is enough to start. The cycle continues.